I've outlived everyone I ever knew, every friend, every enemy, every person who told me how to live, and the ones who went early, a lot of them did everything right. The careful eating, the daily walks, the clean habits, followed every rule, still disappeared. So I stopped asking what they ate, started asking what they were living with, because I didn't live to 107 because I was healthy. I lived this long because I stopped staying in things that were quietly destroying me, the marriage that slowly emptied me out, the job I spent decades doing for the wrong reasons, the friends who weren't really friends, the life I built because it looked right, not because it was mine. And that's what this is about. Not diet, not exercise, what it actually costs to live a long life, and what you have to be willing to cut. The food, quickly. Eggs, bread, meat, whatever was on the table. Coffee every morning. Walked most days, not by plan, just habit. That's the list. A man I knew, careful eater, walked every day, never smoked, gone at 67. Another man, same street, ate cheap, smoked 30 years, never exercised, made it past 80. Habits matter, but they're not the story. The story is what you were living with while you had those habits. That's the part nobody wants to talk about. I was married for 21 years. Her name was Ruth. She wasn't cruel, no abuse, no blow-up moments. It was quieter than that. A silence that had a temperature to it. A look I learned to read before I even finished talking. Over time, I started editing myself before I spoke, and then I stopped speaking altogether on anything that mattered. By year 12, I wasn't telling her anything real, not a decision, just what happens when you learn slowly that it isn't worth it. She said I was closed off. She was right. But I closed off because staying open cost too much. There was one morning, I was 54. Kitchen table, coffee going cold in my hands. Nothing unusual about the day. I looked at her chair across from me and realized I'd been dreading her walking through that door every morning for years. Not consciously, just in the body. That quiet bracing that had become so normal, I'd stopped noticing it. And I thought, I don't recognize myself in this house anymore. Not angry, just honest. I'd spent years getting smaller, more careful, less willing to take up space. Adjusted myself so many times I lost track of what I actually thought, what I wanted, who I was when no one was watching. That's what it does to you, slowly, without announcing itself. You don't feel it happening, and you just wake up one day and you're a stranger in your own life. I left that year. People had plenty to say. My brother didn't speak to me for 2 years. Friends chose sides. I heard every version of you gave up. I moved into a small apartment. Almost nothing in it. First morning there, I made 1 cup of coffee, just one. Stood at the window, drank it in silence. That silence was mine. I should have left sooner. I stayed too long. That's the truth of it. The friends took longer. 4 men I'd known since my 30s. I trusted them the way you trust something that's always been there, without thinking. That was the mistake. Mid-40s, I started noticing. When something went well for me, something shifted. Nothing said. Just a coolness. A change in temperature I couldn't prove but felt every time. When things were hard for me, they were warmer. I sat with that long enough to understand what it meant. Then I pulled back. Quietly. No confrontation, no speech. You don't talk your way out of a friendship that was hollow to begin with. You just stop showing up. Slower to call back, less available. The connection died on its own. One of them asked if something was wrong. I said I'd been busy. Found out later what they said about me when I wasn't there. Someone told me. Wasn't surprised. I already knew. Just, hadn't let myself say it yet. That's how that kind of thing works. You know before you're ready to know. 33 years at a shipping company. Not a terrible job. I wasn't miserable every day, but it had nothing to do with me, not who I was, not what I cared about. I fell into it at 24, stayed because it was easier than leaving, and 30 years passed. House, car, job title, life that looked fine from the outside. But somewhere in my late 40s, I remember pulling into the driveway after work and just sitting in the car, not ready to go in, didn't know why, sitting there thinking, this isn't mine, not angry, just clear. I'd built the life I was supposed to want, never actually chose it. Just followed what was expected by people whose opinions I'd spent decades organizing myself around. Left the firm at 57, less money, smaller everything. Came home after the first day and sat there, felt like my time was mine for the first time in years. Should have done it sooner. Waited too long. That's the honest version. My life now is simple. Wake up around 6, make my coffee, stand at the kitchen window for a few minutes. By then, Bo is up. My dog, 8 years old, some kind of mix nobody could ever name, waits by his bowl the same way every morning. Patient, no drama. I feed him first, then make something for myself. From the other room, usually right around then. Hello, hello. That's Iggy, my parrot. Gray red tail, about 11 years old. 30 words used whenever he feels like it. Sometimes calls my name from the other room in the middle of the afternoon for no reason. I stop trying to figure out what he means by it. Neighbor named Hal, 70s, comes by sometimes. We sit on the porch, watch the street. Don't say much. That's enough. That's most of my days. Nothing in it that costs me anything, and that's not nothing, and that's everything. Here's what I believe. People don't break physically first. They break from the life they're living. Years in a marriage that took their sense of themselves. Decades in a job that had nothing to do with who they were. Friendships built on the wrong foundation. A version of life they built for other people and couldn't figure out how to leave. The body carries all of it without complaint, but it's keeping track. The ones I watch go early, the careful ones, the healthy ones. A lot of them were carrying something heavy, something they'd lived with so long they stopped seeing it as weight, that low, constant tension, the brace before a conversation, the exhaustion sleep doesn't touch. Getting through the day instead of living it. They called it normal. It wasn't normal. It was just familiar. You can spend your whole life surviving something and still be destroyed by it. I have no one in my life right now who leaves me worse than they found me. Not because I stopped caring, because I spent enough years around the wrong people, in the wrong marriage, in the wrong version of a life, to understand what it was actually costing me, and I stopped paying it. It cost me. Relationships, years of being misunderstood, approval I'd spent a long time chasing. I paid that price. Worth it. My name is August. I'm 107 years old. And here's what I know. Peace is a luxury most people never have. Not because it isn't available, because getting there means letting go of things they're not ready to let go of, people they're not ready to lose, versions of themselves they've been performing too long. So they stay, years pass. They call it living. I did it too, longer than I should have. I know that now. But the morning I stopped, when nothing in my life was quietly working against me anymore, something was different. The day was mine. Not a revelation, not dramatic, just mine. After all of it, the marriage, the job, the friends, the long, slow work of removing the wrong things. That's the only secret I have. Not what I ate, not how far I walked. Just that, a life that was finally mine, and enough peace in it to feel the difference.